Often people tell us that the downside of owning a steel ship is that you have to deal with rust, but honestly, I much prefer to deal with rust instead of having mushrooms growing out of the hull.
And it kind of is where the whole dream of owning a tall ship started.
And if the boat was meant to sail on the ocean, like a racing boat, like a pilot schooner, where the main focus was really the sailing, then it was designed as a schooner.
Hello, it's so good to see you again. I'm Barbara, and together with Daniel I usually restore the historic sailing ship Flying Coney in the Netherlands. However, right now we are on our way back to Austria to meet friends and family, and we decided to spend one day here in Luebeck, because we are thinking of spending the next winter in this harbour. Making these videos and restoring Flying Coney wouldn't be possible without the support of very generous people, like our lovely Patreons. Thank you so much for your support. In Luebeck is a very interesting historic harbour with many interesting historic ships, and we want to show you some of them now.
Back in 2020 we started to watch all the videos of Samson Boat Co. with his Tally-Ho project, so we thought it would be awesome to buy a wooden yacht. So the first bigger wooden boat we visited was the Samara. And in fact, we did buy this boat by handshake, but afterwards there was a higher bid, so the owner decided to sell the boat to the higher bidder instead of to us. But seeing this boat now, it was actually quite good that we didn't get her and that we ended up with Flying Coney. Mostly because Flying Coney is a steel ship and not a wooden boat. When we visited the boat, we visited her together with a surveyor, and there were some parts of the boat in question, like the forward mast or the stem. And seeing the boat now, 3 years later, it's clear that all the parts that were in question are either in the need of a repair or are already replaced. One thing that always shocks me about a wooden boat is how much you need to be into the maintenance of the wooden boat. Because if you stop maintaining a wooden boat, in a really short period, a boat in good condition turns into a quite large project. The hull was built by a famous wooden boat yard in Germany named Biltje back in 2007. And one thing that really attracted us to this boat was the high quality materials they've used to build this boat. The hull is oak on oak, but the superstructures and the wheelhouse are made out of high quality teak wood. There is a lot of brass on the boat, all metal is stainless steel, the masts are hollow. It's really a nice looking boat. One problematic bit about wooden boats is that if you see the damage, it's already too late and you really need to do a quite massive repair to get the boat back into shape. And when you start to remove parts of a wooden boat, there's always a big chance that you find something you do not want to find. And if you start, you just need to repair until you get back to sound wood. And that's really the problematic bit about a wooden boat. What you see on the surface, it's just the tip of the iceberg.
This ship here, the Thea, is called an Archer, and she's flagged in Austria. And for me it's a very important ship, because it's the first traditional ship I ever sailed on. I sailed 2 times on her during the tall ship races, and it really was a fantastic experience. And it kind of is where the whole dream of owning a tall ship started. And as you can see, it doesn't need much ship to be a tall ship. In fact, this one is just about 10 meters long.
Often people tell us that the downside of owning a steel ship is that you have to deal with rust. But honestly, I much prefer to deal with rust instead of having mushrooms growing out of the hull. Here we have the Galliasse Frido. It was built in Norway in 1881. So this boat is more than 140 years old. It was built to hunt for seals in the ice and later was used for a coastal freighter. And there was an association taking care of the boat, but unfortunately they ran out of money, so it's not sure if this boat can be saved and will be floating for much longer. One option we have to save costs on Flying Coney, especially when it comes to converting her into a sailing ship and buying a rig, is to look for ships who are beyond repair. I'm not saying that this ship is beyond repair, but ships like that are beyond repair and still have a proper rig, is to wait for them to be scrapped and buying the rig from them. And the beauty about that is to give a boat a second life and to give parts a second life and use what can be reused. The Frido is rigged as a Ketch, which is a really traditional rig for a workboat. That means that the main mast, the forward one, is higher than the aft mast, and also that the sail area of the main sail, of the forward sail, is larger than the aft sail. And it really makes sense to rig a workboat as a Ketch because there are multiple benefits. First, generally speaking, it is easier to handle a Ketch than to handle a schooner. But also you can use the forward boom as a loading boom to get stuff into the cargo hold and out of the cargo hold. And you can also use the smaller aft sail to stabilize the boat when you fish or when you're waiting. With a Ketch you have multiple options how you sail it. You can sail it with just the chips on, and with the aft sail you can sail her with just one chip and the main sail. So you can really play around with sail area to match the weather conditions you are in, and you do not really need many people to handle a Ketch rig. Another traditional rig form is the schooner rig, and both boats behind me, the La Paloma and the Samara, are rigged as schooners. That means that the aft mast, the main mast, is higher or has equal the height of the forward mast, and the main driving force is through this large mainsail aft. That means that schooners are a little bit more difficult to sail, but it is a very beautiful rig, and many really fast boats were equipped with schooner rigs. So usually when a boat was designed to work at the sea, it was equipped with a Ketch rig. And if the boat was meant to sail on the ocean, like a racing boat, like a pilot schooner, where the main focus was really the sailing, then it was designed as a schooner. It's really hard to get across the distinction when a boat was more likely to be rigged as a Ketch and when it was more likely to be rigged as a schooner. But it can be said that faster ships more often had a schooner rig than they had a Ketch rig, but there are pros and cons to each of the rig types. However, we've planned to rig Flying Coney as a schooner because we are in a size range where this rig really makes sense. We've talked about Ketches and we've talked about schooners, so we've talked about boats with more than one mast. But now we do have the cutter-rigged Sava here, which is a boat with one mast and multiple foresails. Speaking about the sailing performance, one mast is usually better than having multiple masts. That's why you only see one-masted racing yachts nowadays, because you reduce the weight aloft and one larger sail outperforms multiple smaller sails. So why have they started to put multiple masts on back then? Well, first of all, a tree just can be yay big. You can't just grow bigger trees, so they had to figure out a way how to power larger boats. And the second idea was to also make the sail area more manageable for a smaller crew. They didn't have winches back then, so they needed to control all the sail areas, block and tackle. So one or two people needed to be able to deal with the forces on the boat. So they started to divide the sail area into multiple sails, and that's why they put multiple masts on traditionally rigged sailing ships. And that's why you have your schooners and your ketches. Here we have the high cutter Hansine. And one fascinating thing about high cutters, they were a large series of Danish fishing vessels, and they were kind of the first fishing vessels who were designed to also have an engine. They still had a sailing rig. Being a workboat, they had a Ketch rig, but they already were designed to have a prop and to have a small diesel or a small hot bulb engine to propulse the boat when there was not enough wind for sailing. And that's also where the name comes from, high cutter, not because they fished for shark, they fished for herring and other fish and not for shark. So the reason why they were called high cutter is because they were the first at the fishing grounds. So all the other fishermen who hadn't already bought a high cutter couldn't catch any more fish because the high cutter already caught all the fish and were already on their way back home. It's slowly getting dark and it's a quite cold day, so I can't wait to get back into the heat. So I think it's a good time to end this video here, and I hope you have enjoyed all these facts about this lovely historic ships here in this lovely museum harbor in Luebeck. And I really hope to see you all next time in the next video, and thank you so much for watching. And hopefully see you next time.